Welcome to the Unspoken Truth Podcast. My name is Joel.
And I'm Sebastian.
This show is about men striving to be men.
And today we're going to talk about self-discipline. On the last podcast, we touched on some poor habits like pornography, but now we're going to touch on building some good habits and some structure in our lives.
And it's really important for us to have structure if we want self-discipline in our lives.
Of course.
One of the things that's really needed for self-discipline is the willingness.
Sure.
You have to be willing.
To want to grow, right? I don't know if there's a lot of times where you're comfortable where you are, and you have your job, you bring the food home, you have your kids and everything's comfortable and you don't really want to move. But I think it's always important to always be growing, because that's not only good for you personally, but it'll make you feel better. When you have that growth, when you achieve things, it makes your whole life more fulfilling, I feel like. And
it's important that we want to grow.
Of course.
We want to get better at anything that we're doing. We don't want to stay stagnant.
Yeah.
We don't want to stay right where we are. We want to progress.
And that's going to help you in all aspects of life, right? No boss wants the guy who just wants to get the minimum done and then chill out. They want the guy who's always growing, who's always like thinking outside the box, who's giving input when they don't even expect it, right? So it'll advance, even in your careers. Everything helps.
And I think that goes into a great segue of commitment.
Sure.
You have to be committed. You have to be willing, and you have to be willing to be committed, because that is going to bring that self-discipline.
And we also have to make sacrifices, a lot of sacrifices when it comes to, hanging out with your friends or having your leisure time cut a little bit. No matter what discipline you build, there's an opportunity cost somewhere else in your day.
And I think a lot of people are not willing to go through the sacrifice.
Sure.
I think there are people who are willing.
And committed.
Sure. But once you start feeling the pain of the
Yeah.
sacrifice, I think a lot of us drop out.
Yeah.
So we want to encourage you by having this podcast to talk about some of these sacrifices to get self-discipline, because that self-discipline is key to our success. You watch a lot of YouTube successful people, like gurus. What do they talk about that? What do they talk about regarding sacrifice?
I guess it's just really important that we analyze the spots where we're weak and, where we need our leisure time. We're not going to cut everything out. So analyze your weaknesses and your strengths and be able to cut the areas where, because there's times in our day where we do things that we don't even want to do for leisure. And we have to realize that's not worth it. We have to shave out the least productive time and put some productivity in there while still having our leisure time. We don't have to be productive 24/7. We just find the areas where the time slots where we can be productive and time slots where we need our leisure, and we just manage it a little bit more efficiently. Because if we don't manage it, then everything's just sporadic and it's chaos. Maybe you just watch YouTube through your whole productive time, and then you hit your leisure time and you're like, oh, well, I don't really want to do the work now. And then what?
Right.
And then you just waste the whole day.
I teach MMA for a living. I've been teaching it for over 22 years now. And I work with triathletes. I work with MMA fighters. Have a couple champs in my camp. And we're constantly looking at what we're good at.
Yeah.
We enrich what we're good at.
Yeah.
But we also focus on what we're weak at.
Sure.
And what we're weak at is where we need to have the sacrifice in.
Mm-hmm.
So we can develop that into a strength. And I think it's so important that we're willing to sacrifice. And sometimes we might not have to sacrifice, like you said, everything all at one time. It's a process.
Mm-hmm.
We can sacrifice a little bit of time, maybe a little bit of fun, maybe a little bit of enjoyment, and that will turn into a strength slowly but surely.
And people don't realize that. They think it's just this whole big sacrifice.
Right.
But, it's a process, and we give ourselves reward systems in place so that we enjoy the process, and then it starts building, and then eventually the habit, is big enough to where your whole day is pretty much structured. You have your, couple hours of leisure time, we keep it to a minimum, and we do that on repeat. So ultimately that's the goal, but there's a whole process along the way. And even getting half the way is so much better than the beginning, right? So it's all about just, slowly building these structures into your life that can make you a little bit more productive and help you in the long run.
And the last thing I'll say about sacrifice is a scary word.
Yeah,
you
sure.
use that word and everybody gets fearful. Oh, I don't want to sacrifice. I associate that with pain.
Yeah.
But that pain is a good pain. It's a pain of growth. I had to sacrifice the last 3 months. I fasted for 2.5 months, was consecrated with God and with some of my issues. And let me tell you, I lost 24 pounds. I didn't even know I had 24 pounds to lose. I was fasting all day, had a small protein meal with some vegetables. If I had a sweet tooth, I would have half a fruit. But that sacrifice, that pain that I went to, I see the benefits now. I see the growth in me. I had to deal a lot with my resentment, my bitterness, my anger. which I think we're going to touch on next week. But I feel so much better today.
Sure.
So much at peace. Because we're going to talk about ways now on building that structure.
Yeah, these sacrifices are very difficult if you don't have that structure built in, right? Because then it's just sporadic and you're not prepared for the sacrifice, and it's like, damn, I can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
But, we're going to take some steps to build this structure into our lives. And the first thing we want to really touch on when building a structure or foundation in your life is your sleep schedule, because this is probably one of the most important, even though it's probably the most swept under the rug. We think, we need to be productive, we need to work hard. But really, there's a few things that can really impact your energy for the day, your motivation, your happiness, reducing the negative emotions in your life. And that the first thing is sleep.
Sleep is so important. When a new client comes to me and tells me I want some lessons and I teach only privately, I tell them, how are your sleeping habits? Because it is the number one area of their lives that allow them to recover, that allow them to mentally reset, and that allow them to emotionally be ready to take on the day. And my classes are pretty intense. They're designed for individuals at their level, but it's designed to challenge them. So they're constantly being challenged every session in some area, whether it's strength, conditioning, technique, even just mentally teaching them that they can overcome certain challenges. So sleeping is a secret weapon to achieving some of your goals.
Yeah. Sets up your whole day.
And you were talking about off camera about the consistency of it.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's not only like, getting 7-8 hours, which is important. And I think it's possible for most people. Maybe you have to cut it to 6 or 7, some years of your life where you're working extremely hard, you have 2 jobs or whatever. But, some of the biggest, most successful entrepreneurs in the world, like Gary Vee talks about how he sleeps 7-8 hours. And his whole spiel is that it's go, work hard, put in the hours, be patient. But it's also about the time you sleep. The consistent time is extremely important because it just controls the more variables in your life. So if you sleep, at 4 a.m. and you wake up at 3 p.m., that's fine. But as long as you do that consistently, because then you'll be able to identify parts of your day where you're productive and proactive versus parts where you need leisure. Identifying those is extremely important because we talked about identifying your strengths and weaknesses and capitalizing on these kind of areas. And we can't know that unless we have structure, because you're not going to know where you're productive if every day it's changing and you can't catch it.
And that leads into the next part of building structure, and that is consistent eating.
So not only sleep, right? It's meals as well. You want to be consistent in your day. It's consistent times. It's very difficult, I'm sure, for most of us to have that. But we can do our best. Hopefully we can make 1 meal day consistent in the beginning, and then 2, there's a process. But making sure the meals are consistent, because, again, that affects your energy a lot. For me, I realized there'll be times where I study for 3 hours, and I need to do like 3 more because I have a test, but then I eat dinner, and that dinner is full of carbs. And then I just feel like crashing after. And I'm like, man, I really can't sleep now, but I'm so unmotivated now. So sometimes I've realized now, maybe I just need to delay my dinner or start studying earlier, And these are things we can only figure out if we make things consistent and what we're taking in consistent as well.
And that leads into the next part of building structure, and that is a to-do list.
Which
I feel that you do very well. Making a to-do list, you set up your daily objectives, you prioritize non-negotiables, and this is so important. And I've seen the growth in you because you do this.
Yeah, so recently I actually built my own to-do list because I used a different one and it wasn't as efficient for me. But I realized for me personally, I don't know if it applies to everybody, but first I start off with dumping all my tasks. I do this at night right before I sleep, so it sets me up for the next day. I'll just think of everything, any little thing I need to do the next day, where run an errand, work out, of course. When I have actual work, any little tasks I want to get done that day. And then after that task dump, I prioritize a few, 2 to 3 usually, that I then put into the scheduled time slots. Those are my priorities and non-negotiables. I put them in, and then I build everything else around that. All the small tasks, they can be built around those. But those are concrete, and those are things I need to get done that will work towards my goals. And that is proven pretty efficient for me, because I know a lot of people that do just to-do lists. But a big thing about human nature is that we feel the time allocated for something. So if we just put a list of 3 things for the day, we're going to take the whole day to do those things. And it's important.
Not efficient.
Yeah, it's extremely inefficient, but you don't realize it. You're not even conscious enough to realize it because of the way you built your structure for the day. So when you put it into time slots, you'll realize, I could have gotten all 3 of those things done in an hour or 2 hours. So what was I doing for the rest of the day? So that kind of wake up call and slap in the face will realize your inefficiencies, where you were actually productive. And then you can start filling in more things, putting in more productive things, or even more leisure time. Just being able to allocate things properly, I think, will be an extreme benefit to your life.
And we also have to remember to do stuff that we're passionate about.
Sure.
Stuff that we enjoy has to be part of our to-do list,
Yeah.
part of our daily routine. For us, is fitness.
Yeah.
I teach for a living, and I got to keep up with these young kids who are pro fighters. Some of these gentlemen that are triathletes, they do not get tired, and I got to make their class intense enough for them to be challenged. So for me, fitness is a non-negotiable.
Sure.
I need to train. I need to work out. I constantly have to be growing and learning. Even with 22 years of MMA experience, I'm still having to learn, reteach myself. And it's a non-negotiable. And that allows me to reset my own mind.
Yeah.
It allows me for me to say, hey, I'm still growing. I still have something to offer because I have a passion and a drive to do it, and to do it with excellence.
And again, we're really promoting the idea of leisure time is okay, you know, and doing things you like is okay. Put it into your structure. That's going to incentivize you and motivate you to keep this structure in place, or else it's going to be a habit that's just too difficult to build, and it eventually falls off. And the goal is to keep this long term, because that's what's really going to impact, and you're going to see the results after the long term. You know, things don't come right away. So building that structure with things you like, putting in your leisure time where you know you need it, and keeping your productive hours productive is going to prove benefits over the long run, you know, extremely for your life.
And there's so many benefits when you do have a structured life, or even a structured day. You'll see benefits like less anxiety. That's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
We all struggle with anxiety when a test is coming up, when we have to pay a bill, when it's the first of the month and some of you have to pay rent, you know, you have to pay your mortgage, the kids have to go to school. And when you have this structure, you're able to face that anxiety head on, as opposed to letting it overwhelm you.
And I think a quote that I really like is, those who fail to prepare should prepare to fail, right? That's why this whole thing about me setting out my schedule the night before is so important, because if I start thinking about it the morning of and then nothing's like set up for me, then it's so much less incentivizing to do it. So really preparing and setting up that structure, that's going to prepare you for opportunities in your life. Because we have so much under control, so many variables in our control, that when some uncontrolled variable comes in, we'll be more prepared and more comfortable to take it on, instead of, oh, I'm already in so much chaos, I can't handle this other thing that's coming up, right? Like you said, less anxiety because things are structured. And we also are more prepared, you know, for opportunities, anything that comes our way, really.
So what ends up happening is you get more done.
Yeah.
And getting more done is part of us being successful, especially as men. We have so many things to get done. Go to work, provide for the family. You know, something breaks down, the car breaks down, the washer and dryer break down, the kids are acting up, your wife, your girlfriend,
Mm-hmm.
they need attention, they need more direction. And you being a man striving to be a man, you need to be a leader. You need to be
Prepared for those situations,
exactly
right?
prepared.
And the structure is going to help you.
It's going to help you get more done.
And like we said, like it can be, you know, maybe your wife has a problem and you just need to be there for her, just to listen. If you have the structure, maybe you can you have a slot where like, okay, this is my leisure time, but now I could just listen, you know?
There you go.
You find the areas that you can capitalize on. And that's the whole thing with this.
And what it does, it actually makes you feel better about yourself, which in turn is growth. And that growth is important as men. When we go to the gym, we want to lift, we want to get stronger, we want to grow in strength. We want to gain more muscle mass. We want to grow.
But also realize
it's more stamina, grow.
We want to feel the struggle too. That's why we go, because we love the feeling of struggling under that weight, right? And breaking to the new boundary, breaking that plateau. And that's the same with anything in your life, you know? The struggle is going to kind of suck, but also you love it because that's the journey, that's the process. And then the results is just icing on the cake always.
It really is. Loving the journey, or loving the challenge, I would say, more than pain, I think is a sign of maturity. It's really a sign of maturity when you're able to bring it on. I will face it head on. But if there's no self-discipline, if there's no structure, if there's no passion, if there's no willingness, if there's no commitment, these things that we're talking about, you're going to falter, you're going to fall. Mm-hmm. So you have to be prepared.
Prepared, key.
You have to be prepared, which is the key. And that's what we're trying to do here on this show. We're trying to help you build a foundation and prepare for the storms of life, for the challenges of life, so we can be the men that God have us to be.
Yeah. And ultimately, you know, it's about loving yourself and knowing that you're going to fall short sometimes, and that's fine. You know, this isn't something that you're supposed to do overnight. You're not supposed to build all these crazy habits overnight, but really just starting to build some structure in your life and realizing the benefits when they start to manifest, you're gonna be like, wow, this is great, not just to do, but for me. It makes my life better. It makes those around me and those that I love, their lives better. It makes me a more capable man. And that's the goal, right? To become more capable in the long run.
And what ends up happening, you start believing in yourself and you start trusting yourself and you start making better decisions, having better discernment. So all you're going to see is positive growth,
Yeah, for sure.
positive success, whatever that may mean to you, but definitely positive, not negative.
For sure. And it's important, we do things with excellence and we take pride in what we do. So no matter what you're doing, whenever your passion is, as long as you love it and you also enjoy the process, I'm sure you'll be fine.
I hope that some of these unspoken truths like today's talking about self-discipline connected with you. So I want you to engage with us. Comment on our YouTube channel here, the Unspoken Truth Podcast.
Yeah.
Engage with us. Give a thumbs up, like the page so you don't miss any other podcasts.
Yeah. I mean, comment down below, like some places where you feel like you're strong in, some places that you're weak in that you could improve on, and we'll definitely connect and reach out. So other than that, we'll see you guys on the next episode. Thank you for making it this far. If you learned or related to anything on today's episode, feel free to drop a like and subscribe for more weekly content as we post every Monday at 2 p.m.
And if you want to connect at a deeper level, join our Facebook group page. Follow our TikTok for snippets and teasers for any future videos.
And if you're looking for material mentioned in this video, all the links will be in the description below.
And we will see you on the next episode of The Unspoken Truth.
See you guys.
Can we skip to the good part?